Welcome back to Rivals of the East. Hold on. I'm going to cut that beginning. Welcome back to Rivals of the East. I'm your host, Buzz, with co-host Sean. And Sean, wow, what a whirlwind the last couple weeks have been, dude. There's just been firings of coaches, retirings. Obviously we'll talk about the biggest one is Bill. And then you have Miami, 3 games up on the division with 5 games left. And we blew it. We lost to the Bills. And the Bills are the AFC East champs, and we are on the road now to the wild card to Kansas City, where it is going to be 1 degree at kickoff, with wind chills forcing it up to -30, depending on the wind gusts. It's going to be cold. It's being called possibly the coldest game in NFL history that they're playing in Arrowhead. But man, I know we'll talk wild card and everything, but let's start with the biggest one here, the big kahuna. Let's talk coach firings real quick, and then we'll get to your side. Pete Carroll fired as head coach. Well, removed as head coach. He's an advisor, I guess, with the Seahawks. He's out, man. Then we learn like the next day, practically, Nick Saban, Alabama, retiring. Nick Saban's gone, man. He's out. So another football coach legend, Nick Saban, is gone. And then the biggest one, which we knew was coming, but it's still weird to see it. Bill Belichick parting ways with the New England Patriots after 24 seasons and 6 Super Bowls. How you feel right now, Sean?
Bittersweet. Knew it was time for a change, but like you said, it's kind of something hard to like feel and see and be like, huh, that's actually happening.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. It's a weird feeling, but
Did you watch his presser?
yes, I did. I actually have to say that was probably one of the more professional between owner and coach kind of leavings that I think you could possibly have. They both obviously, you could tell that they both were like, this is the right choice. And it was very amicable, as Kraft has said a million times in that presser. They have a ton of respect for each other, but it's clear that it's time.
I think what got me is Bill used the line, "We're on to the next thing." I thought that
Yeah.
was great. So he did get his little zinger in
He
there.
said he'll always be a Patriot, and that's probably the closest thing I think he said. That and thanking the fans, I about had a mini heart attack right there.
Yeah, I was a little taken aback by that. I guess the real question is he going to make the Hall of Fame?
We're on to the next question.
um, no, so Bill Belichick, of course, when it got announced, of course, everybody's thinking like, who do you get to replace the head coach, right? On
Mm.
a lot of people's lists, the greatest head coach of all time, not on mine, but on a lot of people's lists. Um, and we kind of sat there. We saw another surprise firing, Mike Vrabel, which there'd been a little bit of smoke to that, right? You know, he was at the
Yeah.
game the few weeks back, prepping up and pepping up the locker room, talking to the guys about the
Got inducted to the
organization,
Pro Football Hall of Fame for the Patriots.
the Ring
And
of Honor there.
yeah. And
So
he made some comments about ownership, and we find out later that there's a report saying that Mike Vrabel refused to dismiss Patriot interest, and
yeah,
that led to his firing.
so Vrabel was gone, so we're thinking maybe Vrabel does come in and take the reins. I mean, he is a former Patriot player,
I
right?
always thought it was a possibility,
Yeah.
especially with the comments he made, but personally,
But
I
no,
called it.
no, you were right on the money there. We talked a little bit in the prior off season, because it is the off season for the Patriots now. But Gerard Mayo is the new head coach of the New England Patriots. And in fact, they didn't call anybody. Kraft never made a phone call to anybody. They wrote it into his contract extension over the summer, supposedly, that he was going to succeed Bill. So this was always the plan.
Hmm.
Gerard Mayo was going to fill those shoes, but I gotta say, he's the youngest head coach now in the NFL, by the way. Um, He's
36 years old.
37, but he's younger than Sean McVay by 1 month. So,
Mm.
I think what gets me is it's just, I know he's been prepped for this. I want to get your thoughts on this. From the outside looking in, there's a lot of AFC East fans that were very pleasantly surprised and happy that Mike Vrabel did not get the job and Gerard Mayo did. Um, because Gerard Mayo is an unknown. He's a first-time head coach. Now he has been under Bill a long time. He has been in the faculty there, the facilities with the players, with Bill. He has a lot of his fingerprints on a lot of things there, but it's always difficult, as Mac Jones knows, when the guy leaves and you have to fill those shoes. It sometimes can already set you up for failure. Is Gerard Mayo going to be able to bring a winning culture to the Patriots as a head coach, or is he going to suffer from those same things that other guys can suffer from in a quarterback aspect or head coach aspect like that?
I think yes and no. And when I say yes and no, yes, as in the fact that I think he can possibly do that. And I say no because it won't be in the same way. Bill Belichick was the GM and the head coach of the team. And in this case, the Patriots already had that decision made up that if Gerard Mayo was going to become the head coach, they will have to do a GM search. So we've yet to see that piece go into play. I think he could very well be the head coach, the spearheader of the locker room, decision maker when it comes to assistants and coordinators and everything like that. Now, as in the player personnel part, I think that does need to be in someone else's hands, someone that is more experienced. Because I think Gerard Mayo probably knows a lot about football and especially sponging up some of that information and, Bill Belichick in his ears. I don't know if much people know Gerard Mayo. He was a rookie Pro Bowler. Um, so he was pretty good right off the gate. And it was less about his athletic ability. It was more about his intellect. The players in the coach room since probably the first year, his rookie year, in fact, nicknamed him coach. So that just lets you know he has some leadership and he definitely knows how to play defense. So I think this is going to be interesting. There's a lot of things that remain to be unseen. The business aspect. There's a lot of business aspects that come to coaching outside of the X's and O's, and that is very much an unknown.
Well, I think here's my other question too. Bill's a defensive minded guy.
Hmm.
You go to another defensive minded guy. Really, the way that the league is, what the Patriots have desperately needed, if you look at this season, they need offense. They need an
Hmm.
offensive minded guy. I just don't know if, like, and again, we don't know anything yet about Gerard Mayo and his approach to the game, but we know where his background comes from, and that's on the defensive side of the ball. Bill O'Brien is, I think, under contract for another year as offensive coordinator, right?
Correct.
Well, we saw how that worked out with a defensive-minded head coach and Bill O'Brien. Now, Bill obviously was more in charge of personnel than probably should have been, but are you going to see similar struggles, you think, in this coming next season, or do you see them actually making the right choices with their draft picks in terms of
So
skill positions or free agent signings, things like that for offense?
there's not a greater actual game planning coach and decision maker when it comes to that. But as in the player personnel side, I think Bill had a lot to be desired. And I think Gerard Mayo, even being an unknown, gives still more possibility, I think, to allowing his scouting and player personnel macro to make some of those draft decisions. And I think that's actually probably a good thing that you have a guy that's more willing to listen to the other voices in the room, especially in years past that we hear reports. It's going to give either no validity or validity to those reports because if now you have a guy that's listening to the staff members and everyone in the locker room and the drafts tank, then maybe it wasn't Bill all along. That was them saving their own butts. But in many cases, we've heard things where Bill Belichick has vetoed the ultimate decision and a decision being for actual playmakers that turned out to be very successful. N'Keal Harry, Cole Strange, those kind of wackadoo picks that we always sat here going like, I don't think that was really what they were thinking. Maybe that's what Bill was thinking. Some of those reports come out because, now that he's out of the room, we have confidence that we can release those things. And I think that's pretty cowardly and probably not as accurate as they want to let on. Because if that's your job, I think that's something you're willing to die for, so to speak.
Well, speaking of, well, I mean, it is going to be a very interesting offseason for New England. This is probably going to excite you a little bit, in between changing your diapers. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, but we'll see what happens. It's a very massive shift and change. It's the end of an era. Brady's retired
Yeah.
and gone, and I don't think Bill's done coaching.
No,
Obviously,
absolutely not.
he made it seem like he's moving on, not
And
like done.
an interesting point to what you just said is when Kraft actually said, he'll always be a Patriot and I'll always celebrate, the success we had with them. He said, until it's you on the other side of the sideline coaching against us. So he wasn't removing any doubt that he was going to continue coaching, and I think that's for sure. Especially with Bill saying he's moving on. So
Is he going back to the Jets?
no. Sela has already been named.
Yeah. Oh, that can
Thank
change.
God for us, but
Yeah, right.
well, yeah, that could change one weekend, but
But
we'll see.
yeah. Um, so that's the news there. Of course, Jim Harbaugh's in the mix for some of the other candidates. Mike Vrabel, Pete Carroll is not going to be moving away from Seattle, but a lot going on there. But speaking of a lot going on, Sean, let's talk about depression. The Miami Dolphins. So Miami has finished the season at 11-6. We had a big Sunday night game coming up in week 18 against the Bills at home, and it was for the AFC East title. And the previous week, we just got destroyed by the Ravens 56-19. So we really needed this win. And, if you ask the homers, the Ravens game didn't matter. It's 1 week, we'll bounce back. The real important game is the next week. It was always the next week. The Titans, don't worry about it. It's the next one that's important. The Ravens, no, the Ravens don't worry about it. It's the next one that's important.
Yeah.
Um, man, Buffalo, it's kind of like I almost feel like when they play us, they know how to scheme against us defensively to the point where they're like, whatever. If we throw up on ourselves on offense for like 3/4 of the game, who cares? Um, Buffalo rolled into this game, man. Josh Allen had two first quarter picks. He threw two interceptions. They were the only ones he threw in the game. But, the second one, he threw on a 4th and 2 play that was at the 40, and he kind of arm punted it into the end zone. They touched it back. So they, saved him 20 yards, Miami getting. It's whatever. But the first one, there was a bad route by Gabe Davis trying to run in the end zone, and he just threw it. Eli Apple. Eli Apple picks it off. But really, the story of the game to me was I watched this and it's just Tua ain't him, bud. He ain't that guy. I watched this game. Tyreek is playing hurt. Waddle and Mostert were out because of ankle injuries. So you had Cedric Wilson opposite of Tyreek Hill. But Devin Achan was running strong when they were doing their cover two. And then they were playing a little bit of the pass game when they saw cover one. And then they got, 14 points. They were up 14-7. It looked good. And we get to the fourth quarter, and, they can't really do too much. And then the Bills return a kickoff for 96 yards for a touchdown on us, tied up at 14. And we can't do anything, man. Tua had a pick early in the game that was stupid, thrown in the double coverage. And then, Josh Allen and them, they just convert. They go down the field. They score a touchdown, 21-14. They run the clock down enough but we get a second chance. And again, I'm going through this fairly quick because I want to talk about the Kansas City game because that's the game that matters. This game didn't matter. But then we get the ball back with a minute and about 46, 48 seconds, something like that. We start making a few passes, plays here or there. One of the last passes of the game, Tua throws a hospital ball to Tyreek, about killed the man. He got sandwiched between two defenders. If you watch the Hard Knocks, he comes up and he's screaming in pain and walking off. Injured his quad and his ankle there. He is playing on the game against Kansas City, but he was banged up. So the last play of the game, who do you go to? Tua's going to Chase Claypool, Sean. Chase Claypool. Now, if you don't have, if you're not notorious for throwing outside the numbers and it takes a while for the ball to get there because you don't have a lot of velocity on it, I probably wouldn't throw it to my fifth string wide receiver, let alone with the game on the line with two safeties high, because Tyler Rapp knew the play was coming. Because, of course, as we know, Tua doesn't read defenses. He just goes to his first read all the time. In fact, Kurt Warner did, I don't know if you saw this, I'll talk about it, but Kurt Warner did a video breakdown of the last time we played the Chiefs in Germany. And he had a quote. He said, I mean, this guy's open in the flat. This is elementary level stuff. I said, oh, Kurt, throwing shade at Tua. But anyways, Tua throws the ball. It gets picked. Terrible throw. The game's over. Bills win. They're AFC East champs. So they get a home game against somehow the Mike Tomlin Steelers this weekend. And Miami has to travel on the road to Kansas City. But that's not even the worst part, man. Van Ginkel gets hurt. He's out for the year. Jerome Baker, who just came back off IR, he's out for the year. Bradley Chubb, as we know, is out for the year. He tore his ACL in the Ravens game with down 37 points almost with 3 minutes to go, right? So you leave your starters in. And Jalen Phillips got hurt. Deshaun Elliott's questionable, which he's probably not going to play. Javon Holland's knees are banged up. He's questionable, but leaning towards not playing. So we're elevated Elijah Campbell to play safety with Brandon Jones. Xavier Howard is done for possibly for the year. I mean, I would say for the year because he's not playing against Kansas City. So foot injury, just decimated, man. Too many injuries in these key positions. We don't have a good deep roster, like I said at the beginning of the year. So it's, and the weather's going to be 1 degree. And I'm tired of the
Wish it were
Dolphins.
colder.
Sean, I'm tired of the Dolphins. I'm tired of people thinking that we're good. We're not good. We can beat the Broncos when they're in disarray. We can beat the Panthers, the worst team in the NFL. We can beat the crappy Jets. Great job. We beat the Patriots twice, barely the first time. Great job. Like we lose. Do you know what our point differential against teams with a winning record is -91. We average 17.9 points a game against winning teams. All right. We
Patriots offense.
yes. So like I don't want to hear about our explosive offense. Our offense has not been explosive. Like it's been 5, 6 weeks. This team just isn't good. Well, everybody's hurt. Dude, if I hear one more person say it's because of injuries, every team has injuries right now, right?
Yep.
Everybody's hurt at week 19. Everybody. So don't hand me this like the problem is that here's what the issue is. We have a very limited scheme right now because we have a very limited quarterback. And you can say whatever you want. Like you can it's not even about two of the person, but as the player, he just sucks, man. Like I watched film breakdown with Kurt Warner on that Chiefs game. I watched all 22 film of Tua in the Buffalo game. He doesn't process a defense ever, ever, never. I watched one. He had Tyreek Hill out on a shallow route, and he's looking down the field straight away. And his first read was always going to be Waddle on the deep go route, but he was covered in tight coverage. He wasn't going to be able to beat his man, but it didn't matter because he looked and then he just goes like that. He didn't even read. He just threw it. And you could see in the Bills game, it's the same thing. Look at the Patriots games. Look at the Ravens games. Like all of this stuff, there's no way that you would ever be able to get farther than what we were at right now with him under center. It's just not possible. And then on top of that, they're going to try to probably pay him. You and I both know that. We talked about
Yeah.
that. Sean, what would you pay Tua?
38.
Yeah,
Yep.
he ain't going to get
Because
38.
I gotta get the most expensive wide receiver in the NFL. It's
That's right.
Yep.
And we're already negative 41 mil over the cap next offseason. And guys like Christian Wilkins, Andrew Van Ginkel, Connor Williams. Who else is not under there? We got a couple other guys too. They're not even counting towards that right now. Xavier Howard, all these guys got to get re-signed. They're not accounting towards that negative 41 million cap, so you already got to restructure these other guys. So they got to extend Tua if they want to make cap space. But then if you extend Tua, what quarterback are we back to? Let's see. Ryan Tannehill. Big
So
contract.
here's the thing. Heading into KC, when you're looking at that, based off of what I saw in the Buffalo game, the biggest piece that told me they're not a championship ready team, forgetting everything else, when you're down and you have a chance to still win the game despite everything, you could put it away. You're not even behind. You're heading into the fourth quarter up a score. All you have to do is score one more time. And what did they do? 3 and out, 3 and out. And then the last one was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Before that punt got returned,
The penalties?
false start,
Yes.
legal man downfield, and then you throw the ball and get nothing. So you're like, I believe it was like 3rd and 26.
That's right.
They're not false start. How many false starts does this coach allow? He makes the plays. It could be the first call of the game, and it's false start. And the reason why it's frustrating is the Patriots made the same mistakes consistently with Mac Jones. And guess what? We're not good. So what does that make them? They did it last time they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. It's the same thing. They're not prepared. They're not ready
No.
against a not great
No.
Patrick Mahomes led offense. Defense is decent. The offense isn't.
Defense is top 5, I believe. The offense is definitely not. But you want to know something? I'll trust in this weather. I'm going to trust Kansas City and their ability to run with their offensive line over Miami because our guys are all about space. Dude, our edge rushers going into this game were Justin Houston, who we just signed at 35 years old, and Melvin Ingram, who's 30 pounds overweight.
So you got near Gerard Mayo age edge pressure
Yes.
right there.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you got Seiler and you've got Wilkins in the middle.
Yeah. So
But then your run support guys like Javon Holland, they're probably going to be out. Deshaun Elliott probably going to be out. Calf injury. So Elijah Campbell and Brandon Jones, and then you have Cater Kohu, and then Jalen Ramsey, and then linebackers are going to be Duke Riley, and I don't
my
know.
question is, do the Chiefs play the game how Bill Belichick played the Bills in that storm?
Throw the ball 3 times.
Run the ball 32 times and throw it 3.
I think Andy Reid is of the same like-mindedness of that if they're not stopping it, why change it?
Yeah.
So if Miami's giving up 6 yards a carry, why would he change it?
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about Clyde's Edwards Hilaire, but
Pacheco will get it done.
Pacheco runs well.
Well, think of it this way. Pacheco can get you your first and second downs. Allaire might be able to get you those third and shorts. And I mean, you could even throw a tight end in there as a fullback and get some of those plays too. There's a lot that
Not
they could
Kelsey.
do. No, no, no. But there's a lot you could do. I, I list, this is one of my favorite statements was, here's the other thing. Miami just don't have that dog in them. We don't. If I hear Mike McDaniel say the word adversity one more time, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I,
Like he,
I, you know what? You know who my X factor is in this game
Mike
for the
McDaniel.
Chiefs?
Oh,
No. Whoever they decide is going to be their extra tight end, if it's a left tackle, a right tackle, a guard, a tight end, and they use him as an extra blocker, depending on who that guy is, that can make or break them running on them
you talking
because
about
they're
for the
going to need it.
Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you might even have some design Patrick Mahomes runs on this. There's a possibility.
I mean, Patrick can take
He's
off
not
fairly
fast,
decent. He's
but
not slow.
but he's pretty elusive.
Yeah. He has I would say is that he can scramble and make those obviously off script plays and he can get yards that way. I do
I don't
see,
I don't know how much
screenplays.
throwing is going to exist. I'm not,
Screenplays.
that's my biggest question. I don't know how much throwing because depending on the wind at times, like you might not even want to.
So here's a question. Mostert's probably going to play. What do you think is going to happen? Who's going to run? Who's going to have the most yards rushing?
Most yards rushing. Oh, I think the Dolphins. Total yards rushing. Yes, I think the Dolphins. I just think when you talk about effectiveness, like yards are yards, but if they're not meaningful yards, it doesn't matter.
How many times is Tua going to throw this game?
12.
He's not even wearing gloves, dude.
12 at most.
He said they asked him at the press conference. They said, "Are you going to wear gloves for the sub-zero temperatures?" He said, "No, I'm not wearing gloves. It's all a mindset." I'm like, bro, it ain't a mindset when that wind goes to negative 15 degrees on your skin.
I guarantee you he's gonna have the heat packs inside his little
A little
his little
hand
thing
warmer.
that he's gonna, yeah, like come on now.
Raheem Mostert
Come
says
on
he's
now.
going sleeveless. I said,
You
yeah, okay.
know, I'm really curious. In Hawaii, do they
I don't think they get cold weather in Hawaii at all. I know it gets like 50 degrees if you're up there in the mountains,
hmm,
but it snowed in Alabama.
oh my God. It snowed in Florida. I
Listen,
come on now.
Chiefs are winning this game. Chiefs are going to win this one 24-10. That's my final score prediction. We're scoring 10 points. I know you're probably shaking your head not agreeing, but I think that Chiefs are going to control the time of possession and the clock. I think Miami's going to struggle in this game with the weather conditions.
There's gonna be no field goals.
You don't think so?
No,
Well, well, Chiefs 24, that's three touchdowns and a two
no.
point conversion each time.
I Extra points might be hard to even come by.
And Jason Sanders goes from having a career game to Dallas to missing every single kick in this one. It's all Jason Sanders' fault, not Tua's or
I'm
McDaniel's or
just
anybody
like
else's.
it's gonna be 13-21.
Yeah,
I
21
just
13.
don't.
Yeah. Chiefs, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And who's going to get blamed for this loss? You know what I
coach.
saw?
It's gonna be coach.
Here's what I saw. So now the narrative is that it's not because of Tua on these throws. He would have had better yards and stats and touchdowns if Tyreek didn't drop the ball so much. So now it's Tyreek Hill's fault. I'm like,
The guy that
okay,
put you on the map.
the guy, yes. So let me read you this stat for Tyreek Hill. This is how many targets he had. Let me pull this up here real quick. I want to try and go to his stats. Here we go. Hold on. Getting it pulled up here. All right. Tyreek Hill. for the season. He had 171 targets, 14 drops.
Yeah, is that bad? No. No.
Dude, so you're gonna sit there and force feed the man almost 200 passes? And by the way, Tua threw the ball 250 times.
Yeah, so almost all of his passes go to Tyreek anyways, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know, real shocker.
So it's like you can't stop it. Stop. In fact, when I watched that film breakdown against the Chiefs the last time, he had a clean pocket and it was a go route and well, actually it was a slant on this play. It was in the fourth quarter and they could have actually tied it up. And the receiver was breaking. I think it was Cedric Wilson. And if Tua just waited, he would have had it and hit him and he would have got a touchdown from it, right? But there's one caveat. He had to take a hit when he was going to throw it. So what happened when Tua went back to pass, the pocket was fine, but then when he had to take a step up because it was collapsing on the outside instead of running back into it and step up, that's when as you go to release the ball, you can get hit, right?
Hmm.
He saw that guy starting to get past the block and he just threw the ball. He didn't want to get hit. You know, I never thought Ryan Tannehill was that great, but I'll give credit. Ryan Tannehill would have taken that hit. He's taken that hit a lot of times in his career to make the play happen.
I'll tell you what hit he took. He was willing to throw away the last game of the season just so he could get Hopkins a pay bump. So maybe a little bit better of a person. That doesn't say much because I don't think much of Ryan Tannehill.
Maybe his therapist told him to do that. But, you know, I'm just saying, like, if you don't, that's part of the game. Now you're limited even more. If your quarterback, that's the other thing. I'm not saying Tua doesn't want to take the hit, but he can't take the hit. You saw what happens when he takes a hit. He breaks. Why do you think they're like,
Mac
Pike,
Jones.
ugh,
Mac Jones, man.
he'll
Same
take the
thing.
hit.
He'll take the hit, but the ball will be a pick.
Yeah. But I'm saying it's like, that's another limiting facet of this offense. So I don't know. I think,
I
like I
know.
said,
He's venting. You would have thought Buzz over here lost a legendary 24-year tenured 10-time Super Bowl head coach.
I don't
But
count
instead,
asterisks.
we're sitting here talking about Tua,
Yeah. Well,
how great he
well,
is.
because that's because I know what's going to happen in the offseason. You know what's going to happen. They're going to pay this
Yeah,
man like the highest paid
it's
quarterback in the NFL.
unfortunate.
They're going to pay him the highest quarterback in
Yeah,
the NFL
it's very unfortunate.
because he led passing yards this year with less passing yards than Tom Brady had last year.
No, in a season he didn't play for 4 games, and then regular season wasn't an extra game anyways.
Yeah, it
So
was 12
technically,
games
he played 5 less games than Tua and still had more yards.
and less weapons.
Yeah.
That was the
Uh,
year. That year they had less weapons because of injuries.
hmm, I don't know.
It felt like Gronk was getting injured left and right that year.
Gronk's always been like that, though.
Yeah,
Reckless. Reckless abandon.
yeah. He wishes he was Travis Kelce. Date Taylor Swift. Is Swift going to be at the game?
Don't care.
I
Yeah,
think it'd be
she'll be
too.
there.
No, it'd be
I
too
don't care.
cold.
No, she's in the booth. What does she care?
Well, she's probably got a concert.
No.
Does Travis Kelce play better when she's not there? I
If
don't
she
know the
showed
stats.
up to the Patriots Chiefs game, she's gonna be there.
Patriots
It's a
Chiefs game.
meaningless game.
Well, it's just to watch them win because everybody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. If well,
Well,
except
this is
for
the
her
other thing.
cussing at the halftime.
Yeah, like she's a football fan. She just said to kill herself. All right, so you say 21-13, I say 24-10. Well, we're gonna see what happens. This game's going on. It's gonna be cold. And real quick too, I do think Bills beat the Steelers this wild
Yeah.
card weekend.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
if Miami somehow pulls a miracle, Al Michaels believes in miracles. If they pull a miracle and they do beat the Chiefs, we would actually be going to Baltimore. So
That'd be an easy
that might be the
exit
biggest
game
layup
for the Ravens.
the biggest layup game for the Ravens they could hope for. They're probably like, please win this game against Kansas City. Because if Kansas City wins this one, and the Browns beat the Texans, which I think that the Browns will beat the Texans, Flacco goes back to Baltimore. And I kind of want to see that. Just like the Jared
That'd be
Goff.
an interesting narrative.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Detroit, if you got a Matthew Stafford Lions jersey, you can't be allowed in Detroit bars. They don't want you.
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I know. Anyways, that's all for today, everybody. We're going to catch you back again after the wild card game to see if we continue on with this season or if it's over, just like we pretty much assume it will be. So we'll catch you on the flip side, everybody. Take care and have a good one.
We're on to the next one.